What does Mr. Rogers have to do with Black history? Turns out quite a lot. This month, in 4 parts, I'm highlighting Fred Rogers' connection to Black history. This is part 2. Little known fact, Mr. Rogers was physically colorblind, unable to distinguish between red and green. However, while he couldn't distinguish color with his natural eyes, he was keenly aware of color from a sociological standpoint. He didn't fall into the trap of color blindness that did not see race. Instead, he appreciated the uniqueness of all races and creeds, and he intentionally centered characters on his show who were Black, women, Asian, disabled, and a number of other intersectional identities. None exemplified this ideology of inclusion more than Francois Clemmons.
Francois Scarborough Clemmons.
Francois Clemmons became the first Black actor to have a recurring role on a children's television show when he joined Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in 1968 as Officer Clemmons, the singing police officer. His mere presence on the show was groundbreaking, but one episode in 1969 was particularly impactful. At the height of the debate over Jim Crow segregation, Clemmons and Mr. Rogers shared a wading pool. This seems benign today, but in 1969, the stark contrast of Fred Rogers' white feet and Francois Clemmons' black feet in the same pool was a profound response to incidents of racism at swimming pools in the 1960s. One of the most infamous events occurred in 1964 in St. Augustine, Florida, when Black and white protesters staged a swim-in to protest segregation at a whites-only motel. In response, the motel manager threw acid into the pool while the swimmers were still inside. A mere 5 years later, with continued unrest in the wake of riots and incidents of police brutality, Fred Rogers visioned this simple scene sharing a pool with Clemmons, who was portraying a Black police officer. By sharing a wading pool with Clemmons and drying his feet with a towel, Rogers sent a subtle but strong message of equality to young viewers. It was also a theological message from Rogers, who was an ordained Presbyterian minister. Rogers wiping his feet with a towel symbolized Jesus washing the disciples' feet on the night of the Last Supper. Francois Clemmons would stay with the show for 24 years, and in his final episode in 1993, the two would reprise the pool scene. The second time was equally timely, happening in the wake of the Rodney King beating and the riots in South Central Los Angeles. Once again, the image of a Black police officer sharing a wading pool was a timely and profound statement. This is the actual pool used during that scene. Both during and after the Neighborhood show, Francois Clemmons maintained a distinguished career as an opera singer and even won a Grammy for his part in the Cleveland Orchestra's recording of Porgy and Bess. He went on to found the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble and served as an artist in residence at Middlebury College in Vermont, where he still lives today. I highly recommend his memoir, Officer Clemmons, where he details his experiences as a performing pioneer. I'll be back next week with part 3 on what Mr. Rogers has to do with Black history. Make sure you go back and check out part 1 and like and subscribe for updates.